Hey guys, Geistpunk here, and today we're working on my dad's 1974 Charger. It's been sitting a long time, and there's gas in the tank, which means it's probably turned to varnish, so I'm going to show you how to clean that out if you're lazy. So if you're working on an old car that's been sitting a long time, one thing you want to check is if there's any fuel in the tank, because if there's old fuel been sitting in a tank, it may have turned to varnish, and varnish will clog up your carburetor or fuel injectors. So first we're going to go to the gas cap, and just give it a sniff. And it smells like varnish, so it won't smell like proper gas. It'll smell a lot more pungent than that, and that's probably varnish. So that means we got varnish in the tank, and we don't want to suck that into our carburetor. See, now the correct thing to do, and a better YouTuber might, is to drop this fuel tank out and clean it out off the car. But I had to look at it, and it seems like it's really going to be hard to take out and hard to put back in, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to be lazy about it. Okay, so the things you need are real simple. First off, you need some kind of solvent, like just lacquer thinner here. You're going to need some way to get the lacquer thinner out of the tank. So I've got this clear vinyl tubing and some way to pump it. So you could use an old fuel pump. You could even just suck on it with your mouth, though I don't recommend that. So I'm using this one-person brake bleeder. This just creates a little vacuum for bleeding brakes. So I'll use this to start a siphon, just like if I were to use my mouth. Also, you want to make sure there's just varnish in the tank and that there isn't any big bits of rust or anything else like that. So I tried using this cheap boroscope camera here, and it kind of worked, but apparently the inside of the tank is just an inky black void. So I'm going to go ahead and just assume that it's okay. Also, you're going to want some gas to put in after you're done. Alright, so the procedure's real simple. Just going to take this lacquer thinner and pour it in the tank. And now that that's in there, we're going to let it sit for a bit so it has time to dissolve all that varnish. Alright, so now that it's been sitting for a couple days, I need to pump it back out. Up here under the car you can see that I've removed the original fuel line that went from the tank to the hard line. It was rotted anyway, so I cut it off and I'll replace it with a new one. But I've got some of this tubing that's hooked up to it. It's going to a bucket down here. So from the fuel pickup, I have this line going to this container here. And I'm just going to start to siphon, which will help clean out the tank and the fuel pickup. So using my brake bleeder, I'm just going to create a little vacuum and start to siphon. Okay, so the hand pump thing didn't work, but I've got a plan B. So I've rigged up this old fuel pump here. Just going to connect it to power now. And then you see the gross brown fluid, which is the varnish and the lacquer thinner mixed together, is flowing out and into this bucket here. Also, for obvious safety reasons, we have a fire extinguisher nearby and ready to go. Okay, look how black that fluid that came out is. So this worked real well. It cleaned a bunch of stuff out of the tank. Unfortunately, our old fuel pump did die, but it was on the way out anyway, so that's not a big deal. I've gone back to the hand pump. I added some gasoline to the tank and I pumped that out. As you can see, it's way more clear. Not quite as clear as gasoline should be, but pretty close. So I'll just do this a couple more times, and then when it comes out looking like normal gasoline, then we're good to go. Alright, would you look at that. After a couple of gallons of fuel through there, it's coming out nice, clean, and clear. And we've got a clean tank now. Okay, real talk for a second here. Chrisfix would never do anything this janky. The proper way to do this is to drop the tank, clean it out, off the car, and then put it back on after it's clean. But this actually seems to be working pretty well. You might notice I'm using a different fuel pump here, and I've got a fuel filter in line now. That's because a bunch of gunk came in the tank and clogged up the last fuel pump and killed it. So I got another cheap one, put a filter head laying around in line, and this is working pretty well. So I put about 10 liters of gas through here and got all the gunk out, and now it's coming out nice and clean. I'm just running it in a loop right now, straight from the tank back into the tank, so I can run it through that filter and get all that last little bit of gunk out so it doesn't clog up my fuel pump. And then after I start running the car, I'll just change the fuel filter frequently, and we should be good to go.